that for all these years, he had loved and lived with a woman capable of committing such a terrible act. Emilie was arrested. Emilie and Richard, two lovers studying in New York, of Nigerian origin, who have been living the perfect love for more than 5 years now. They met at high school in Lagos. They graduated the baccalaureate the same year. Except that Emilie had a very high average and was able to obtain the Nigerian state scholarship. Richard, for his part, despite his hard work, was not so lucky. So the couple was forced to separate when Emilie traveled to the United States. It was the first time that the two lovers separated for such a long distance. It was a big blow for both of them. During her first year of study in New York, Emilie also found a student job. Because she planned to save enough money to be able to bring her love Richard over. And for that, they needed a lot of money to enroll Richard in a university, knowing that university studies are very expensive. So, to have enough money as soon as possible, Emilie decided to work in clubs as a dancer. Because her small student job salary was never going to allow her to save money to bring Richard to New York. 5 times a week, Emilie went to the club and did her job perfectly, in order to have enough tips. Men loved Emilie, and the way she knew how to use her body. Knowing that this job is not lacking in indecent proposals, Emilie obviously very quickly began to receive proposals for complete finishes. In hotels, or at clients' homes. At first, Emilie refused all these proposals. But seeing the enormous sums that her colleagues were making by doing a complete job, she did not take long to start accepting these proposals, because she really needed to earn enough money as soon as possible. Between her rent, her food, and of course the savings to bring her darling, Emilie had to work very hard. Emilie also asked Richard to work on his own in Lagos, so that the two of them could save enough money as soon as possible. Richard didn't even need Emilie to remind him, he was already working very hard for that. Emilie told him this mainly to cover his tracks, so that Richard wouldn't suspect Emilie's enormous and strange influx of money. Nearly 2 years after Emilie's arrival in New York, she was finally able to bring her love, Richard. Of course, Emilie was the one who paid for everything, because the few naira that Richard was able to save, converted into dollars, was really nothing. His savings weren't even enough to pay for his plane ticket. So you understand that Emilie was the one who really paid for all the expenses. Richard was enrolled in a university that wasn't too expensive. Everything was going well for the couple, who lived in a beautiful apartment that Emilie rented in a quiet neighborhood of New York. The two lovers were very happy to be reunited after almost 2 years of separation. Every time they both had free time, apart from their studies and work. Because yes, 3 months after his arrival, Richard had already landed a student job. The couple went out to have fun and enjoy the magnificent city of New York. When they could, they would stay and visit cities such as Los Angeles, Las Vegas, or Dallas. Except that very quickly, Richard was intrigued by the fact that his sweetheart, Emilie, worked at night, practically all week. At first, Emilie made him believe that she worked in a warehouse at night. And Richard believed it for several months. Then he finally realized that there were too many things wrong. In particular the fact that Emilie was spending a lot of money, and knowing the salaries, Richard very quickly asked Emilie for explanations on where all this money came from. He didn't ask her the question, Richard forced Emilie to tell the truth. Because he had notably come across messages from Emilie's clients who were meeting her in hotels. This convinced him that his doubts were well-founded. Moreover, one evening he discreetly followed Emilie and surprised her in the middle of working in the club. It was now clear to him that Emilie earned so much money by going out with men. Emilie burst into tears because she could no longer deny the obvious, faced with so much proof. She explained to Richard that she did this job only because she needed enough money. And that a normal salary wouldn't even allow them to survive because the cost of living is very high. Richard was very angry. To the point where he didn't want to see Emilie anymore. That evening, he went to sleep at his work colleague's house, with whom he got along very well. Emilie was very sad, and cried all night, while Richard was having a good time with his colleague, Sophia. Richard did it without remorse, telling himself that his girlfriend, Emilie, was also cheating on him. For over 3 months, the atmosphere between Emilie and Richard was tense. Richard continued to go out with his colleague Sophia. And Emilie had noticed that her boyfriend was cheating on her. It really hurt her. Because she was cheating on him just for money, not pleasure. But apparently Richard was cheating on her to console himself, or out of revenge. After several very tense confrontations between the two, Richard reassured Emilie that he was no longer going to cheat on her with Sophia. Because he was aware that Emilie was the love of his life. To the point where, Richard proposed to Emilie, in a very romantic and theatrical way, on the legendary Avenue Times Square. It was truly a magical moment for Emilie, who saw her dream come true. And of course she said, yes. To celebrate their engagement, Richard paid for a week's stay on a cruise, aboard a luxury boat. Emilie was very happy, especially to see how Richard was doing things in a big way, so that the couple could experience unforgettable moments. The two lovers took several photos and videos, while boarding the luxurious cruise ship to immortalize the moment. They also posted them on their social media. The couple discovered their magnificent room, overlooking the sea. It was truly magical for Emilie and Richard. Emilie never wanted this moment to end, it was so incredible. Everything was going well, and the couple enjoyed the activities offered by the cruise. Compared to the price Richard had paid, as he had spent a lot of money. These included romantic, gourmet dinners in the most luxurious restaurants on the ship. A magnificent jacuzzi, with a sea view and service worthy of a fairy tale. The couple was truly in heaven, especially Emilie, who was truly floating on a big cloud of love. But after the 4th day of the cruise, Emilie realized that something was wrong. Because almost every night, at a certain time, she would wake up alone in the room. Richard was never there. But where did Richard go? In the middle of the night, leaving Emilie alone for several hours. Several questions were going through Emilie's mind. But where is Richard going, in the night without telling me anything? What if he's just going to get some fresh air, and enjoy the magnificent night view of the sea? And if that's the case, why does he feel compelled to sneak out like a thief? While I'm sleeping. Emilie went out to find Richard, and see what he could be doing out in the night. After searching for her in several places on the boat, Emilie was shocked and horrified to see Richard kissing another girl. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. How could Richard have done such a thing to her? Especially during the celebration of their engagement. Had Richard gone crazy? What was happening to him? So many questions that Emilie asked herself in 1 second. Seeing her darling Richard kissing this girl. Richard. What is it? What do I see? Have you lost your mind? How dare you do such a thing to me? What's more, during our engagement celebration stay. Richard. You told me you were never going to cheat on me again. And here you are, kissing a complete stranger in the middle of the night. I'm not a complete stranger. I'm his girlfriend. Please, Sophia, stop talking. Don't exaggerate. Okay. She's Sophie. Your famous coworker, with whom you've been cheating on me for several months. Maybe for more than 2 years. What do I know? Since apparently I don't really know who you are, Richard. You told me that you stopped going out with her. What's she doing here during our vacation? So you're the one who brought her here. Yes, it's my darling who brought me here. Listening to Sophia calling Richard her darling, Emilie couldn't keep calm and lunged at her. saying, "That's my fiancé you're calling darling, I'm going to redo your face. You're already very ugly. Who told you you could take the love of my life away from me? Do you know how many years Richard and I have been together? Stupid girl. Even if you've been together for 1,000 years. Richard doesn't love you, he loves me." "What? I'm going to send you to hell, Sophia." Emilie was very upset and wanted to end things with Sophia after listening to her words. Richard separated them and tried to calm Emilie down. Emilie, very angry, went back to her room, saying to Richard and Sophia, "You're going to pay for this." Richard followed Emilie into their room. "Darling, excuse me. I can explain everything." "Who are you calling, darling? And what are you going to explain to me? I saw you kissing that girl. What explanation do you think you can give me?" Your lips landed on hers without you realizing. "No, darling. Actually, I wasn't the one who brought her here. Like she told you." "That's not true. It's a coincidence, I just happened to run into her here." "I don't give a damn, Richard, you and I are over. You can marry her if you want. I have nothing more to do with an ingrate like you. After all the sacrifices I made to bring you to the United States, this is how you thank me." Then Emilie went out to get some air on the upper deck of the boat. Because she really didn't want to be breathing the same air as Richard. So angry was she with him. Arriving on the upper deck, Emilie saw Sophia, who was about to fall off the boat. She was holding the boat's railing with only one hand. Emilie was outraged to see this, and wondered how Sophia had managed to get into this situation. Then Emilie approached Sophia, who was screaming, shouting for help. But it was getting late, and there was really no one passing by. So Emilie wanted to help her get back up by holding her hand. But she couldn't get Sophia back up, because she was too heavy for her. Sophia fell. At that moment, a security guard who had been listening from afar to Sophia's cries for help arrived, but it was too late. Sophia had already fallen into the sea. The security guard immediately alerted the firefighters, who reacted very quickly. But on the high seas, with rough seas, things happen very quickly. And unsurprisingly, Sophia's body was recovered, lifeless, more than 10 hours after her fall. Emilie, being the main witness at the scene, was immediately the prime suspect in Sophia's death. Especially since several witnesses claimed that a few hours earlier, they had seen Emilie attack Sophia and threaten her because of her relationship with Richard. Emilie couldn't believe what was happening to her. She felt like the world was falling sideways on her head. She was accused of a murder she hadn't committed. The worst part was that Richard was also convinced that it was Emilie who had pushed Sophia overboard to get revenge. Knowing that Emilie had threatened them, telling Richard and Sophia that they would regret it. Richard couldn't believe that for all these years, he had loved and lived with a woman capable of committing such a terrible act. Emilie was arrested. She spent the last 2 days of the cruise in custody, then taken to a police station upon their arrival in New York. Emilie was incarcerated in one of the largest and most dangerous prisons in New York State, awaiting trial. Emilie faces up to 30 years in prison for voluntary manslaughter. What do you think of this story? Do you want a sequel? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and give us a like to encourage us.